Alright, I think we're live. Yep, there's Joe. Hey Joe, how's it going? Just seen your question there. You're going to start me off on a complete rant. I'm going to give everyone a few minutes just to get on it. I have built up a few questions that people have asked. Clear Bookings has joined. Hello, Clear Bookings. Got a lot of questions in today about images, some backup plugins, moving from WordPress.com to .org, moving files from the subdomain of your site to the root of your site, whether to use sliders or no sliders, what kind of content to put on the about page, and whether content is important. So I'm also going to take some questions about beards if anyone's interested. I happen to know quite a bit about it. So I suppose just to mention, there's a Facebook group as well for anyone that wants to know more about building websites or using WordPress, where Web Builders Unite. It's a closed group which you can ask to join, and I'll probably let you in. This is the first time I've done a Periscope. Very strange having a conversation by yourself. So how's everyone doing? How's the web building come along? Any struggles? Any questions popping into your head now before we start? I'll start, I suppose, with the question about images and image sizing. The question came from Anna Demarini. She's a content writer on the Facebook group. She said she's still battling with image sizes. The thing with images is you've got to think about the file size itself. So if an image is coming straight from a DSLR camera, it's going to be a very big file size. So it's going to be in the megabytes. You want to resize the image first. So the first thing you want to do is find out how big the image needs to be on the page. So if you've got a page that's 960 pixels wide and the image is going to take up that full width of the container, then scale down your image or crop it down or resize it to 960 pixels wide, and that's the start. Then you're going to want to compress it for the web as well. So you could scale down an image to 960 pixels wide, but it might still be quite a big image. You want to be trying to get it down. I try the biggest file size I would like to have is 250 kilobytes, unless it's a huge high-res image in the background, but I try and keep them quite low. For the smaller images, keep them well below 100 kilobytes. But it's important not to upload them directly from your DSLR. I know it can be tempting to upload straight from your camera, like you do on Facebook. You can upload them from Facebook straight, or upload them from your camera straight onto Facebook. But Facebook compress your images. So do Twitter, and so do Instagram. They are compressing the hell out of those images. You can't really do that on your WordPress website. You upload it to WordPress, put it onto a page. If it's a couple of megabytes, it's going to take a few seconds to download, which slows down your site, which is bad for your SEO. So the first thing you should be doing is taking those images, if you have them on a DSLR or off your phone, using a tool like Photoshop or Canva or GIMP, which is a free version of Photoshop. You've got Canva and PicMonkey, which are two browser-based image manipulators. My mind's completely lost for words. But you can use PicMonkey to resize the images very easily. It's a very easy tool to use and it's completely free. You can resize the images in there, and then they have 3 compression options. I think it's like Roger Pearson, and you can save them you can compress them quite a lot, so it'll reduce the file size. But you can see what size the file will be before you download it. Try and get the file size as low as you can without reducing the quality of the image too much. So my advice to Anna would be to resize those images before you put them up. They're just too big coming straight from a camera. Joe asked if it's normal to have an image at 1080. Absolutely, you can put in, like, every website's going to be completely different. Images are going to be used in different areas of the website. There might be background images, there might be just small little headshots over a bit of text. They're going to be used completely differently for every site. So if you've got a background image that's 1080, just try and compress it as much as you can. Resize it down to 1080 as opposed to uploading an image that's 2500 pixels wide and only using it in a 1080 space. There's a lot of wasted pixels there. So if you're going to use an image that's 1080, resize it first to 1080 and then try and compress as much as you can. It'll load quicker, which is obviously better for the SEO. So If it's the background image, yeah, 1080 is fine. If you're going to put in a 1080 image in a 960 pixel, I use JPEG Optimizer to compress and resize them. Is that an app, or is it um, an online tool? JPEG Optimizer. I use Photoshop, and I use the save to web option, and that just gives you a load of compression results. So when you're using images, well, there's a couple of other things apart from the file size. You got the file extension, so it can be a JPEG, .gif or GIF, or a PNG. I use the .pngs for graphics, logos, and stuff like that, and I use JPEG for photographs. So you can really compress photographs down with JPEG. So yeah, if you want to compress them, you got PicMonkey, Canva, GIMP, Photoshop, and that online tool that Joe mentioned. Now, I'm recording this broadcast, so I can put it up later on. I must check out that tool actually. There are loads of free tools out there. Just Google it. I can't think of any off the top of my head, apart from Photoshop, which isn't free. But I think Photoshop version 2 actually is free. They don't support it anymore, but you can legally download it now for free. So it's Photoshop version 2. It's quite an old version, but it's free. GIMP is also a free alternative to Photoshop. It's a little bit clunkier, but again, if you're only using it for resizing images and stuff, it's probably not worth forking out the price of Photoshop. I think if you want to get it using their new business model is a monthly subscription thing. So it's like it's Creative Cloud, and for all of their suite of tools, you're going to have it's going to cost around 60 quid for one tool. I think it's around €15 a month for using one tool. So if you just want to use Photoshop, you could pay for that. So it's jpeg-optimizer.com if anyone wants to check out that. I'm going to check that out myself. So that's images. If anyone has any more questions, feel free to fire them in. But I'm going to move on to another question we had from Una Spain about backup plugins. And backing up your site is really important, especially just at the very start. Just when you launch your site and you've done a whole lot of work into getting it to look exactly what you want it to look like, you're ready to launch it to the world and everyone sees it. Back up your site before you launch it, so that if anything happens, you've got that version to revert back to. A backup plugin that I first started using was BackWP Up, and the reason I started using it was it's free, which is always a good thing to have. It was free. It connected nicely to Dropbox, to Google Drive. So BackWP Up, a really good plugin. Duplicator, I keep getting called out on pronouncing words like an American, but this is just because I listen to an awful lot of Americans talking about their plugins. So Duplicator is a plugin that I use solely for moving WordPress websites from one server to another, or from one domain to another. It's a really powerful plugin. I build a lot of websites on my local host, which means they're offline. I build them there and I move them then to the live server. And I use that tool because when you move a WordPress website to a live server, you've also got to update all of the links so that they're not pointing at your local host anymore. They're pointing at the real domain that you want to use. So Duplicator is really good for that. It also takes full backups, but it's not automatic. I think maybe on the pro version it's automatic, but for the normal light version, you have to manually take the backups, and it'll back up the complete database as well as all the files. So that's another really good free one. Now there's Backup Buddy, which is a premium plugin. They charge I think $80 a year, which isn't too bad considering how much money it'll cost you to get your website back up if you lose it. So $80 a year for Backup Buddy. I've used it myself once just to test it out. I just want to see what the back end was like in the user interface, and it was really easy to use, very clean, connected to everything really well. VaultPress is another option. That's premium. It's $90 per month, or $99 for 12 months. That's built by Automatic, and Automatic are owned by Matt Mullenweg, who's the co-founder of WordPress. So it ties in really well with it. Now, not saying that Backup Buddy or Duplicator or BackWP Up don't, but WordPress is built by the guys who oversee WordPress. But that's $9 per month, $99 a year. If it's not in the budget, go with something free like BackWP Up. It connects straight into your Dropbox. You can get 2 GB of storage space for free on Dropbox, which would be more than enough to back up your website. Unless you've got loads of videos and images on there. Whereas Duplicator doesn't really connect to anything unless you're manually doing it. And also, if you're going to connect it into an online storage like Dropbox, you may as well use Google Drive. If anyone's using a Gmail address, you've got 15 GB of space on the Google Drive. Why not just connect to that? You'll probably, for smaller websites, I doubt you'll ever fill up 15 gigs with backups. So that there are a couple of options for backup plugins. That's a great question. Thank you, Una, for that. Una also had another question about moving from WordPress.com to .org. Now, just in case anyone's new to WordPress, there are 2 versions of it, and it's very easy to get confused. You've got WordPress.com, which is a hosted version of the software. So it's kind of like using Facebook and Twitter. You use it as is. There are a few customization options, but you can't extend it or customize it as much as you can with the WordPress.org version, which is what they call self-hosted, which means you download those files and you install the software on your server. So, I've seen a little camera icon there. Does that mean people can take screenshots? Cool. So yeah, you're moving from .com. There, you can export it. Thanks. Now 1717. Yes, you can take screenshots. That's pretty cool. So with the .com and the .org, you can export from .com using their exporter, and because it's the same software, it imports really nicely into WordPress.org or your dashboard. So you'd just log into your WordPress.com. You'd find the option to export your site or your posts. I'm sure they're going to give you like a .xml file or some sort of .zip file to download. You download that, log into the dashboard of your .org version, your own website, and you would find the option to import it. I think it's under Tools and Importers, and you may have to install the WordPress importer. But once you install that, it's going to ask you for the XML file. You give them what you just downloaded from WordPress.com, and it should bring over everything. It's really handy. And I think that's the same for if you have another .org site and you wanted to move those posts or those pages over. You can just export them from your WordPress.org to another website as well. So that's moving from .com to .org. Main difference is .com is hosted by WordPress, so you don't have to take care of any of the hosting or anything. But you are limited to the type of content you put out there. You have to pay to get rid of ads. You have to pay to use your own domain name. You have to pay to link it to a lot of other things as well. So with the .org, you are in control of your hosting, but it shouldn't really scare anyone off. Hosting is just space for your website. Once you've set it up, you just install WordPress and away you go. And the only thing you should really worry about then after that is WordPress. So there are obviously cost issues there. I would say they balance out. So it's quite easy to move from .com to .org. Thanks, Una, for that. Okay, so just before we came on, I got a question from Joe Glennon about whether or not to use sliders on your homepage of your website. Now, this is something that's been debated all the time. If you Google this, you're going to find tons of different opinions about it. I think majority rules or the majority of people would say not to use it. And the main reason that people still use it is because clients have requested it. And it's quite hard to say no to someone who's paying you to do something for them. But the reason that people don't like them is because if you think about it, how often one of the reasons I don't particularly like using this, if you think about it, how often do you go to a website and actually sit there and wait for all 5 slides or however many slides they have to go by? You're looking for information. You're not going to wait for it. You want to find it and you want to find it quickly. And they also say that they're not really that great for conversion anyway, that people aren't going to click on them. But what I would suggest to do, instead of having a slider, have a clear call to action. Check out hero units. That's like having a big hero unit at the top of the page, a nice big clear heading, a brief description underneath it, and a big button, a call to action, kind of instructing your clients or your visitors to your site to do something. There's a great book by a guy called Steve Krug, I don't really know how to pronounce that, but it's called Don't Make Me Think, and it's basically saying that you should never make your visitors think about what they have to do next, because they'll probably not do what you want them to do. So instead of having sliders, I would use a clear call to action, nice clean heading, and a clear button as well. When I put this out later on, actually, if I put it on YouTube, I'll put some links to some examples. If you just Google calls to action, hero units, there's, I think you might have, if been on, if you've been using the website or the internet at all, there are websites out there that are using huge background images with white text over them, their logo, and a clear button either instructing you to get in contact with them or download their product or whatever it may be. And I think that's far more effective than sliders. So I won't go on and on about it, but if you want to research it, Joe, you mentioned that there is an article by Yoast, and they completely condemn it as well. And those guys, if anyone is to know, those guys know. But like, there's been research done, and it's not looking good for sliders, but it's mainly done on request. Okay, so I have another question here from Ellen about the about page content of your website. I suppose when you're writing about yourself, it's kind of strange to do it. But if you write about what you do, who you are, why you're doing what you do, you're going to start building up content pretty quickly. It's also good if you want, when you're trying to build these relationships online between you and your potential customers or clients, to have a picture of yourself, a friendly picture of yourself. Do not put a picture of yourself in a nightclub or holding a rake of pints or shots. Just put up a nice friendly image of yourself. If you know someone who's a photographer, get them to take a picture. If you've got a good smartphone, look into composing nice photographs. Take a good photograph of yourself and put it up there as well. But just when you're thinking about your about page content, think about what you do and who you are, and basically why someone would want to buy off you. If there's anything unique about you or your company, put that in there as well. I've seen some really, really great about pages, really interactive ones. I've seen about pages with a lot of scrolling animations in them, which are great if you know how to do them. And they really, that's something that's intricate would work for someone who's got like 80 years worth of history to dig through. But for a startup, I think just point out who you are, what you do, and why someone would want to buy off you. And then a call to action: get in contact or follow me on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or Periscope, wherever it may be. Is there any more questions? Done a nice 15 minutes there. I'm going to call it quits after 15, but if anyone's got any more questions, I do take questions with beards as well. I think I said that at the start. But we've covered a couple of different things about image sizing. I hope someone finds that useful. Backup plugins, moving from .com to .org, and sliders or no sliders. Nail 17, what e-commerce platform do you recommend? Well, if you're using WordPress, I would recommend, I suppose it depends. If you're selling products, I'd recommend WooCommerce. I really like their product. The WooCommerce itself is free. It's free to use. They do have a lot of extensions which are a little bit pricey, but you probably won't need them unless you've got a lot of products to sell or you've got something quite unique to put out there. Style Flint has joined. You just missed out. I just talked about your question with your images. But I'm recording this, I'll put it up later on, you'll be able to catch up. What was I saying there? I've completely lost it. But yes, is there any more questions? I will take more questions. We have a Facebook group as well. It's Web Builders Unite. Just check there if there's any more questions. Oh, some people are saying it's a bad connection because of the storm. Yeah. If you're in the countryside, this probably will affect it. Yeah, that's from Anna. There's a bad connection because of the storm. That's fair enough. Yeah, I suppose they're the main questions. There was a question last week from Trevor Siri about moving files from a subdomain of your website to the root. It's not a big issue installing your website in your subdomain. In fact, some people would use it as a security measure. So it would be security through obscurity. Basically, you'd have a subdomain or subfolder or subdirectory on your site. So it would be your website.com/something, and you'd install all of your files in there. And some people have suggested putting in the most random stuff in there, so no one could ever guess it. And I mean, it doesn't even have to be admin or dashboard. You could put in your domainname.com/, this is not where I hide my keys, or this is not where I park the car. It could be literally anything. And inside there, you'd install all your WordPress files, and then you just point. It gets a little bit complicated, but under the general settings in WordPress, you've got two URLs. You've got the WordPress URL, which is basically telling WordPress where the files are installed, and you've got your website URL, which is what your domain name is. So if you installed your files underneath WordPress, or your, like for example, spoogle.ie/WP, which when you're using one-click installers is kind of the default value, and if you're not paying attention to it, it can very easily happen. So you've installed your WordPress in your domainname.com/WP. It's fine, it's going to work there, but by default, when someone goes to your site, they'll need to go to /WP to see it. To change that, you can leave WordPress installed in that folder, but you can change your site name or the site URL to just your domainname.com. Now you're going to have to move out your index.php, I think. Don't quote me on that. I have a link in the Facebook group, but you're going to have to move that file out and change a line of code in there. It's not a very difficult thing to do. There's a good tutorial on the WordPress Codex site, and they'll explain how to do it. So that was from Trevor last week. I don't know if you actually got that fixed or not, but for everyone else, if you ever do set up a WordPress install and accidentally put it in /WP or /WordPress, you can easily change it. You can move it out by logging into your cPanel, going into the file manager, and literally just grab those files and move them up into the root directory. Or you can leave them there and just change the settings from within your WordPress dashboard. So I think I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks everyone for all the questions and for logging in and for staying logged in and for watching it. Thanks for taking screenshots as well. Yeah, I'll be back next Monday. Join our group. It's the WordPress. It's the website Web Builders Unite. I have a newsletter as well, the Spoogle newsletter. I'll put a link into that group for anyone that isn't already on it. I'll be sending out some weekly tips. This week I'm going to be talking about a few different plugins that you can install for your WordPress websites. So yeah, thanks very much for logging on, and we'll see you next week. I'm gonna look a bit ridiculous now because I don't know how to stop this. Okay, there we go. We'll see you next week.